Hey guys, it's your boy Toki here with another Mythic Sanctum of Domination raid guide. In this guide, we'll be focusing on Fatescribe. The first section of this guide, I'd like to take a moment and discuss kind of the pattern that goes with Fatescribe's Phase 1 and 2. So as we start to pull the boss, there's a moment of free DPS, and then he starts into his mechanics. And this is going to be the same every single time we pull him. So first, we're going to get a bomb and ad set. The bombs obviously are going to scatter to the sides of the room, and then the ad will spawn. Immediately after the ad, we'll start getting beams. And what range DPS should be focusing on right here is 1, slowing the ad, and then 2, getting as much free damage as they can into the ad. Right after the beams cast here, we're going to be preparing for Grim Portent. And so we should all be running to the middle of the room. But this is also a great time for melee DPS to get some free hits in on the ad to further whittle its health down. Once the runes are called, everyone should be in the middle of the room waiting for the rune to be called. At that point in time, players with the rune debuff go to their rune, and players without the rune debuff finish the ad. Once the runes expire, we then clean up the little ads and get ready for the next ad, which is right about to cast once we kill this. And you can see the ad debuff is going to go out here. The bombs are going to be a little bit later, but they'll be coming right after the ad, and then they'll be getting beam sets. Also really important in this, just like before, range DPS switching to the ad to slow it and get free damage on it as it's walking over to us. And then once he gets into the group, that's when melee begin focusing the ad and dodging the beams as best as they can. Once this ad's dead, he'll spawn little ads, and we should be close to phasing the boss. But just make sure you pay attention to that pattern. Basically, every single time there's an ad out, range should be immediately switching. Melee should be getting as much damage as they can onto it while doing the rest of the mechanics once he gets closer to the boss. The next mechanic I'd like to go over with you is the Grim Portent, or affectionately known as the runes or the puff puff. So really important here after the beginning of the fight, when runes are about to be cast, everyone's watching their cooldown timers here. It's going to happen right after an ad plus beam set. And so, once the beams go out, we should be moving to the center so we have ample time to get to our runes. And I think at this point in time, it's just really important, one, that you're in the middle of the area here when the runes get cast. For example, players down here at the bottom of the screen, if you guys don't have a big movement increasing ability, and I'm thinking of the Shadow Priest right now, not to pick on anyone in particular, but if you don't have a big movement ability and you're not in the center, it could be really difficult to get to a rune if yours gets placed on the far edge of the room. And so in this example here, I actually do have the rune debuff, and so I'm at the middle of the arena here, and so it gives me ample time. And so, one, just make sure you don't panic. 2, make sure you start this debuff while you're in the middle of the room. And then 3, just take your time and scan and look for where your rune actually is. And so you can see there's a lot of runes around here. None of those are mine because there's not a big black smoky thing above it. And so you'll see me go to the middle and start to scan all the way around the room, and there it is. I found it. Literally the last place I looked in my scan, but because I'm in the middle of the room, I have plenty of time to get to the edge and stand into my rune with multiple seconds to spare here. So just make sure that you guys follow those 3 steps, and you should be able to get to your runes no problem. Since we brought up runes, that brings me to the next mechanic, the actual intermission rune running. And I've seen in this phase here, a lot of people tend to run their runes incorrectly and take a lot of extra damage. And so you'll notice that as I'm running my rune here, I'm trying to stay in the center of the rune or the outside corner of the rune. And why is that? Well, this beam that goes to the middle is called Exposed Fate. And it's going to do about 100,000 damage to you over 12 seconds if you get hit by it. And most of the time, people will get hit by other runes dragging their line into them. But that's not the only way you can do it. If you actually go to the right side of this rune a little bit too far, you'll get hit by your own beam. And it does massive damage, and more than likely you are going to die to that if you don't get defensives or a lot of extra healing from someone else. So really important that when you're running that rune, you're staying in the center or you're going to the outside corner of the rune, so you avoid that debuff. And I'll say, looking back at last night, we probably have 4 people, 3 or 4 people every single intermission getting smashed by that debuff, and usually that causes a death. All right, and the last mechanic I wanted to go over here is also in the intermission phase, and this is around dodging despair. And so you'll note that these little ads that are running around here, they cast despair. It's outrangeable, so if you're greater than 25 yards, you will outrange the cast, and also you can line of sight the cast. So it's really important that especially once the 2 of them are together, you guys make as much effort as you can to not get hit by these. So a single despair cast will hit you for about 40,000 damage over 6 seconds. The 2 of them together will hit you for 80,000 over 6 seconds, and very much likely will kill you. And even the single one might kill you if you're taking damage from other sources in this phase. And so, when the first one gets cast out here, all melee should be running around the pillar to hide. Ranged players, and I'm looking, I believe this is a boomkin in particular, ranged players should be 25 yards back. You don't have to line of sight as a ranged player. As long as you're more than 25 yards, you will not get this debuff. But this right here is the absolute worst place for a ranged player to stand. They should be outranging it with the rest of the group, and then all the rest of the melee should be around here, around the corner. So the despair goes off, and the next despair is a little bit staggered. You wait for that one, then you go back in. And that's how you dodge despair. So just make sure you guys keep that top of your mind. There's going to be one basically right after the 2 of them group up, and then there's going to be one right before this mist comes into the melee section. And so that's generally when you want to be anticipating the despairs to come out. All right, well, hopefully that guide was helpful to you guys. Please let me know if you have any questions on the mechanics, or if there's anything in particular that's challenging that I haven't gone over yet, and I'd be more than happy to cover it next time.